Okay, so quite a few of you recently have asked us what COP26 is. So I'm making this short video today to explain what the Conference of Parties 26 is, how it interlinks to the Paris Agreement, why and how the Paris Agreement ratchets up, and how this relates to COP26 and now in the UK. So the Paris Agreement. It's a legally binding international treaty on climate change. It was adopted by 196 parties at the Conference of Parties, the COP21 in Paris, 12th of December 2015, and it came into force on the 4th of November 2016. Its goal, the headline goal, is to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees, and that's preferably 1.5 degrees Celsius compared to pre-industrial levels. Countries aim to reach global peaking of greenhouse gas emissions as soon as possible and climate neutrality by 2050, and that's via a ratchet up mechanism. The Paris Agreement is landmark in the multilateral climate change process because for the first time, it's a binding agreement that brings all nations to a common cause to undertake ambitious efforts to combat climate change and adapt to its effects. So some more information about how it all interlinks. This decade is critical. The next few years, the most critical to act to limit the effects of the global warming, as the effects of climate change do not proceed in a straight line. Critically sensitive areas such as Arctic sea ice, Greenland, boreal forests in Canada and Russia, and the Amazonian tropics, they've been maintaining the stable global temperatures for millennia. So halving emissions by 2030 is the minimum that we need to have at least a 50% chance of safeguarding humanity from the worst impacts. So what we do now to reduce emissions between now and 2030 will determine the quality of human life, in fact, all life on the planet for hundreds of years. And if we do not manage to halve emissions by 2030, we are unlikely to halve emissions every decade until net zero. Net zero is the balancing the amount of emitted greenhouse gases with the equivalent emissions that are either offset or sequestered by 2050. So based on this need for urgency, the Paris Agreement, which was 2015, ratchets up and works on a 5-year cycle of increasingly ambitious climate action by all the countries, by the Conference of Parties. So by 2020, countries had to submit their plans for climate action, known as the Nationally Determined Contributions. Those are the NDCs, and their long-term low greenhouse gas emissions development strategies. So COP26, understanding the Paris Agreement, gives us much more understanding as to why COP26 this year is so important. The UK is the COP26 host, and the UK also holds the G7 presidency this year, so it has large economic sway. The UK needs to be seen as a global leader in climate finance and green resilient growth, holds big influence at the moment. So post-Brexit, the UK is redefining the city after massive shift of trading and still difficulties with equivalence. Plus COVID, the long-term effects from that, UK levelling up, the urgent need for resilient growth and a green economy. Climate considerations in the UK are now fully embedded across its UK principal financial regulators, and this raises global ambition ahead of COP26 as well. And the UK is aiming to ensure that every financial decision takes climate change into account. UK also in February signed up for the International Platform on Sustainable Finance. And the UK's international climate finance commitment is worth nearly 12 billion. So it's huge amounts of money, and recently it was announced that 150 million go to rainforests globally, plus big private investment happening. So the Bank of England will hold its first climate stress test in June, and the Bank of England has also symbolically become the first major central bank to make climate change an official part of its mandate. And that means buying green bonds and purging its books of bonds that fund big polluters. That starts in Q4 2021. So the UK is also hosting the GIS, which is the Global Investment Summit, in October, and that's a pre-COP event hosted by the Prime Minister and the royal family to showcase to world institutions, executives, etc., and to drive forward the 10-point plan for green recovery. So it's an important time for the UK. So a background to the framework that created the COP, the Conference of Parties. The United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the UNFCCC, dates back to 1992 and was set up to stabilise greenhouse gases and limit man-made climate change. It was launched at the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro in 1992, and the UNFCCC has been the basis of the Conference of Parties around the world, which is the nation states and signatories of the UNFCCC. So 1997 was COP number 3, Kyoto, and that created the Kyoto Protocol. In 2015, as we know, we had COP21, the Paris Agreement, and in 2021, this year, we have the Glasgow COP26. And notably, we must add at the end that the Task Force for Climate-Related Financial Disclosures takes the Paris Agreement's 2 degrees target and operationalises it for business via mainstream financial filings. So that's governance, strategy, risk management, metrics and targets. So you can see how it all comes together and it's all being embedded into our systems for change.